Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. With so many CDL teams potentially needing changes over the coming weeks, OpTic Texas are certainly not going to be one of them. Scump makes his opinion very clear indeed on what he thinks about the lack of advantage they got through to the grand finals against FaZe, and Coach Rambo believes Scump may still be in his prime as a player. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you were new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that. Honestly, I just love this clutch really just because like the coldest, he gives the coldest look. Honestly, when he said to the team he was going to clutch this 1v3, he was like, I got this, and then it gives this look to the boys after clutching it. That's one of the coolest things I've seen on LAN, to be honest. Let's dive quickly into these few series that went down last night again, just a further reaction, because obviously a shambolic state of affairs for New York right now. Los Angeles Guerrillas as well, no doubt about it. This also from Neptune I thought was quite interesting. He tweeted this out after their game. Gotta start playing better individually. GG's Royal Ravens lost 3-1. But slightly before this, I believe he also tweeted this out that some people were talking about, then deleted. Just want to play my game. Quite interesting, right? Because he said this on stream after he got dropped from the team. Like, that Clayster and Crimsix aren't using him in the way that he wants to play the game. He comes back yesterday, gets thrown into like the Gavutu blender, right, on both the hardpoint and the control. Not the ideal map to build up confidence on the SMG role. And then again, like, he has pretty much the same stats as he has before they dropped him, right? Like a 0.7, 0.8 KD, lowest damage in the lobby. Like, kind of implying again, okay, look, we can argue about whether Neptune's actually as good as this title as he seemed to be last year. That is, well, probably unlikely, right, at the same time. But also, it's kind of like, okay, are Crim and Clay using this guy the right way? As he was expected to be a star SMG player on this team, hasn't really worked out as of yet. This also from Crim, I wonder what the vibe is like at the subliners, watch parties and meetups. Just watching us get massacred again and again can't be a good time. X says in the reply, kind of a funny copy pasta, but I'll just share a quick clip that X had to say on the flank last night, just kind of berating the New York subliners organization in general for making this move. Initially, like, I think a lot of us called really the fact that Neptune would come back into this team eventually. They do not put him in the greatest position to succeed when they do bring him back. Questions being raised as to even their opposition yesterday, and Paul X was on the other team. Maybe they should bring him in as the flex, drop Clayster, get Crimsix on the main ER, and then bring in a more fast, aggressive SMG in place of Neptune.
Paul X, who's another traditional flex, loves the AR play, and they're bringing back their player that they just dropped, right? Yeah. When you bring somebody back into the lineup, the number one thing you should care about is confidence and letting that player get confidence back. You just dropped him. You just dropped the guy on his neck a few weeks ago.
They dropped him.
So you bring him back and throw him in the absolute blender and say, hey, run a sub on Gavutu?
Yeah.
No, that's not what you do. Like, even if you take this series loss, let Neptune and Hydra play Bokage and go rogue and get some confidence or something. But yeah, just putting them in a Gav blender was probably the dumbest thing they could have done. And yeah, I don't know. And then the fact that they brought Neptune back, like, they just basically admitted that they made a dumbass change in dropping him anyway. Like, I don't know, man. I got a bone to pick with this whole New York organization.
Outside of Seattle, the other team that had a very hard time yesterday was LAG. They got 3-0'd by Florida Mutineers. Even as Chrome says here in the reply, I mean, advanced could still match with contenders. So yeah, a pretty tough time for a lot of these organizations that, I mean, they built a pretty good roster coming into the year. Just seemingly the way that this game plays out is not suited to a load of these players. And they're of course going to have to figure something out. As Slasher says, can't find my rhythm, can't stick to a game plan on the map. So frustrating. GG's Florida. They still have not won a series on LAN this year, right at the Kickoff Classic. They lost in the first round. There was the talk from Gunless, okay, this tournament doesn't matter. Then they go into a major one which does matter. They lose to London. They get through it by Minnesota. They've got through it again. So they're on a, what, 7-map at least loss streak in a row, maybe 8-map loss streak in a row from, from LAN back to online. Not the easiest time for LAG. Like, look, some serious changes need to happen. I wouldn't be surprised to see someone do some sort of substitute swap in the coming weeks. And then when the kind of the mid-season break comes at the end of this month after Major 2, that's when I'm expecting to see some kind of chaos going down in terms of roster changes. Let's dive into the OpTic stuff then, because I thought this was quite interesting actually. As Kaiser points out, this at least is before the matches went down yesterday, but quite interesting that FaZe, because they went 5-0 and made the grand finals, they're actually still leading the CDL points tally right now. OpTic are just behind, because yes, they won the grand finals, they got more points than they would have done otherwise, but they didn't win all that many series. They only won 3 of their series in kind of the qualification matches, whereas FaZe won all 5. So that's why OpTic are number 2 for now, but I mean, still, obviously, this is pretty much what you would expect to see. Paris and New York, at least they have 10 points on the board, they've won a series, but well, that may well turn around pretty quickly, because some people are actually favouring Paris Legion, this new roster with Jimbo over LAG tonight. We'll talk about the schedule today here in a few minutes' time. But of course, the grand finals was FaZe versus OpTic. Like, Oakley even tweeted this out yesterday, right? Sponsoring Scump, the glasses are on in full effect. Like, 30 events over 10 different games. People finally seem to be catching on to this pretty crazy statistic. But Scump was understandably frustrated that the winners bracket advantage they got for reverse sweeping FaZe and then beating London was basically non-existent. They got to veto one hardpoint map, as you can see right here. They got to veto a Bacage, and on some situations they were Team A and FaZe was Team B. Therefore, on controls and stuff, they managed to get defense first, which in theory gives them some advantage. Maybe they get good side on certain maps, and maybe FaZe don't get good sides. But really, it's not much of an advantage, right? Because back in the day, there used to be a 2 best-of-5 format, where it was a very simple concept in theory, right? Everything in the entire tournament is best-of-5. You have to lose twice to go out of the tournament. That's the whole premise of double elimination, right? You have to lose twice to go out. So if you make the grand finals from winners, you haven't lost a series yet in the bracket, then you have to lose one series and then lose another one if you want to go out of the tournament. Makes a fair bit of sense. Now, in fairness, I think the double best-of-5 wasn't always the best from the viewer perspective, just because sometimes you just get a 3-0 domination in the first match and the grand finals would be pretty boring. At least best-of-9, it has to go some sort of distance, but it does go seriously counter to the idea of having to get beaten twice to go out of the tournament. Now, at least some sort of advantage should come through. So I'll show what Scump has to say on this. He's making it clear that, look, he doesn't like the way it's done right now, the fact that there's no advantage for the team that was OpTic in this case, coming through the winners bracket. He reckons at least a 1-0 advantage in the best-of-9, but he would prefer it just to go back to a double best-of-5 format we used to have, but he doesn't think it's overwhelmingly likely to happen.
The team that comes from winners bracket should have to be eliminated twice. Like, if we would have lost, we would have only lost one series, technically. Put it on the screen. Like, FaZe has to beat them twice, or whoever has to beat them twice. I don't know. I wish it was 2 best-of-5s, man. I know a lot of people want it to be 2 best-of-5s too. I don't think we're gonna be seeing that happen anytime soon, unfortunately. I just think, like, I don't know. I feel like there has to be some sort of advantage. Like, we got to veto one hard point. That was our advantage. It's 0-0. You're literally playing every single map in the game besides one. Like, there's literally no advantage. It's almost no advantage, which I don't agree with.
Speaking of Scump and the OpTic guys, then, there has been a lot of talk lately, especially with what's going on in New York, right? And Crimsix and Clayster having a hard time. Like, is it going to be Clayster's final year? Like, what's going to go on with Crimsix? Are there going to be some crazy roster moves that happen over there? Whereas on the Scump front, who's kind of the other player, like veteran, top 5 all-time type player, still competing. There's been thoughts the last couple of years ago, when's Scump going to retire? Can the scene afford him to retire? But at Major 1, he was incredibly impactful, one of the best players of the tournament, no doubt about it. Still playing at this incredible, like, Scump level, really. Like, I don't think his playstyle has changed all that much over the last several years. He's still a relatively, he just slays very heavily, takes his gunfights, like every single advantage he's in, every single gunfight he's in, he'll have like a 55% advantage. He's pre-aiming, like he takes his time, and even on the SMG back in the day in the slower titles, that worked out so well on the SMG. Now it still works out on the SMG when you've got a guy like Shotzzy going in first, but also we saw when he pulled out the auto, that playstyle just translates so well into that kind of flex roll when he went like 33 and 14 against FaZe on Gavitu hardpoints. So no doubt Scump, despite being 26 pushing 27, has been competing for so many years, won his first championship almost 11 years ago now. He's still at a very high level. Coach Rambo reckons that the way people consider players' primes is actually different to how it is in reality. He reckons Scump is still playing at that level.
Scump's really good to coach. I mean, dude, like, I team with Scump. And, like, people who talk down about Scump or, like, I even see someone talk about, like, prime Scump. Like, what is prime Scump? Prime Scump, in my head, is a great teammate that's going to show up individually when he needs to, but also not make mistakes on the map, be a good communicator, and be a good team player. That's prime Scump. That's a Scump that helps a team win. Everything else about the flashiness and whatnot, that's not needed. Like, he's very much still, in my opinion, still in his prime. I don't think, like, I think there's a severe misunderstanding about what players' primes and capabilities are. Like, age is such a pointless number to talk about anymore.
So definitely a massive key to success, right, if Scump continues to play at this level. That's what I was so excited about, really, just watching this OpTic team early on, like when they started to have some good results, that, Scump was really dropping like a 0.8, 0.9, not doing all that much, and yet the team was still winning those final series they needed to win to get through the tournament and, to qualify right in the winners bracket and get out into the major. Then when Scump turned up on LAN, as you kind of expect him to, then this team reached another level. And honestly, looking at the MVP ladder that Chrome put together, I voted in this, a few other guys I'm sure voted in it as well. Right now, Dashy number 1, Cellium number 2, 2, Shotzzy number 3, Dashy overtaken understandably maybe after the MVP performance. Over the course of the year, you could maybe still give it to Cellium. But I thought this was quite interesting actually looking through all the players in order. So we'll start from number 10 here. Just going to quickly scroll down. Kenny gets the 10th place on the list as it is right now. Afro in 9th. I thought that Afro maybe still slightly deserved to be above 0 just on recent performances, but I put both of them in my top 10 anyway. So Afro 0, 9 and then 8. Then in number 7 gets aBeZy. Think understandable. Think if anything he could be slightly higher. I think he's been super impactful for FaZe so far this year. But yeah, then Scump in number 6, right? So kind of crazy. Last year Scump was certainly one of the best players in OpTic Chicago, but it's been a long time really since we've kind of considered him to be on the boundary of like top 5 player in the entire game. Like it really is a throwback right to where Scump used to be several years ago when he was just dominating everything, and he's right back up there again with a load of his teammates. Like definitely exciting prospects with Scump performing at this level, and I'm sure that to some degree Crim and Claire looking at Scump and thinking, wow, okay, like I'm kind of jealous, right, or maybe frustrated that our team isn't doing so well, but also looking at Scump and thinking, wow, if this guy's still performing at 26, 27, like you know, why can't we turn our career around as well and still compete at this level? Because they've kind of been peers in that sense, that they're kind of the older guard of the scene, and it's great to see these guys still performing. Number 5 goes to Illy, slightly above Scump. I think his grand finals performance especially was absolutely phenomenal. And then, well, Simp, obviously, number 4. The 3-0 against Boston was one of the more ridiculous series you're going to see. 96 kills over just 3 maps. And then the top 3, Shotzzy, Cellium, Dashy, as we just looked at. But, yeah, pretty spectacular stuff that all of the OpTic guys are in the top 6 here. On Sunday, we get the Battle of the Excellence rematches. Los Angeles Thieves point out right here. So Envoy versus Scump, the kind of Priestahh versus the King. Thought this was a really cool graphic that Raw the Monster came up with right here. Like, the CDL don't create stuff like this, you know. But it's pretty cool to see anyway. They don't play today, they play tomorrow. But yeah, rematch, of course, of what happened at the Kickoff Classic when Los Angeles Thieves had the pretty surprising upset over OpTic as it was at the time. Nowadays, the kind of expectations for this series are very different indeed. But one of these teams plays later today, as we can look at with the matches right here. So here we go. These are the matches. Now, very interesting ones, to be honest. Like, very important ones. I honestly think a lot of these matches here are quite hard to call. Some of them are slightly easier. But well, anyway, Paris versus Los Angeles Guerrillas game 1. If you'd have asked me this like a month or so ago, that'd have been a no-brainer. I'm giving it to LAG. But Paris now, with their new change with Jimbo, at least they're making an attempt to improve their roster. And most people say that Jimbo is a very fast, aggressive SMG player. Probably exactly what Los Angeles Guerrillas lack, to be perfectly honest. And also what Paris and maybe Boston and a team like that has benefited greatly from that aggression. So I actually think Paris are going to win this one. I'm going to take him in a 3-1, something like that. I think maybe a 3-2. But honestly, I think the Search and Destroy from Paris should be okay. Gravity, their team looked better, right, when they played previously. They beat Seattle Surge. So honestly, I have faith in Paris to take this one. I still think they're going to be in the bottom half of the league, but I think if this team can shoot to be a top 8 roster for the rest of the season, that's probably where their ceiling might be at. Then we've got London versus Los Angeles Thieves. I think I'm going to have to take Thieves here in a 3-1. It's tough to do so, but in theory, right, Thieves just should be better. Like this full team, they should get the better of London with the substitute coming in for just a few days with Paul X there. Then again, I think London are probably still going to be the better Search team, regardless of what Los Angeles Thieves have. But LA Thieves are just so good in the respawns that I can see them finding a way to make this happen 3-1. Then Rokkr versus Ultra. This is such a coin toss to me. I feel like it's got to go game 5. Both of these teams are terrible at hardpoints. That's the kind of concern really I think you have if you're an Ultra fan, that usually the way you beat Minnesota is by taking them down in the hardpoints. I think that Ultra probably will win one of the hardpoints, but the new role change for Minnesota, right, with Attach on the AR and now Priestahh on the SMG, I think that will help them to some degree in the respawns. I think I'm still going to take Ultra in a game 5. I honestly would be surprised if the series ends any earlier than that, and Rokkr are always a decent bet in a game 5 anyway, so it's tough to call. And then FaZe Surge, don't really need to talk too much about that one. The FaZe bounce back I think is going to be complete, unless Seattle Surge bring in Classic, right, who is the FaZe killer from their substitute bench. Maybe things might be different, but very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on a like button, tells the YouTube gods this is a good video, others like you should see it as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thanks for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time. Then Rokkr versus Ultra. This is such a coin toss.